My name is Mike Geary. I work here at the Rotunda. I was master here from 2002-2008 and I'm currently clinical director. So I've had the great pleasure of being associated with the Rotunda for more than 20 years, which is really a tiny snippet of time relative to the overall length of time the Rotunda has been in existence. We are this year proudly celebrating our 275th year. So in 1745, in the middle of March, Bartholomew Mosse opened the first lying-in hospital on the south side, and we moved here 12 years later in 1757. So this year we had great plans to celebrate our 275th anniversary, but with the COVID pandemic, most of those plans have been put on hold. We had great plans to host an event, a musical event around music associated with the Rotunda, some of Handel's music, but unfortunately it was put on hold. So the story of Handel's connection to the Rotunda is interesting. Bartholomew Mosse, our founding master, would have been one of the lucky 500 people sitting in Fishamble Street in the musical for the musical occasion. Handel was present himself, and they all paid a guinea in, and Mosse was with his former mentor John Stone, who was one of the chief surgeons of the day. The encores went on long into the night, but Mosse realised that this was a great way of connecting with people who wanted to give charitably to important things like the Widows and Orphans Fund, like hospital, and for care for patients. So he went on to befriend Handel, and much of Handel's music was used over the next 5 to 10 years as the Rotunda and Mosse looked to get monies in to help with patient care. Things like Judas Maccabeus, Alexandra's Feast, among others. Mosse would have got orchestras to play those, and people would have paid handsomely, and that money would have been used directly for patient care. So the Handel story is interesting. Handel moved to London and he resided there. He was the chief patron of the Foundling Hospital in London, which is near Kensington Gardens. The hospital is no longer a running hospital, but is now the hospital museum, and you can visit that outside when the COVID pandemic settles down, but well worth a visit. So Handel clearly had an interest in supporting foundling babies, which was very prevalent at the time in the 1700s. In the UK, way back, there was a man called Roger de Gresham who was a foundling baby. And the man who took him in was out riding on his horse one day in the Norfolk marshes, and he heard a noise which he thought was a grasshopper. And he followed that noise, thinking this grasshopper was moving, and eventually it wasn't a grasshopper, it was a baby. It was an abandoned baby, a foundling baby, which he took that baby in. And Roger de Gresham became a very successful businessman, but his subsequent descendant, Thomas de Gresham, was the man who founded the Royal Stock Exchange in London, the financial exchange. And that made a huge difference in terms of making London now a global centre for finance. And the very nice parallel then is that a number of years later, a couple of centuries later, another Thomas Gresham, part of the Gresham family, came to Dublin. And if you look up here at the window, you will see the Gresham motif, which is the grasshopper, as an overture to the grasshopper foundling. And that's sitting on top of the coat of arms of the Gresham family. So Thomas de Gresham, the young Thomas Gresham, came to Dublin, and he opened the Gresham Hotel, and his connection with the foundling theme and babies and Handel and the connection to the Rotunda, he came to the master of the day and offered the opportunity to put in these beautiful windows, these beautiful stained glass windows. So they were put in here in 1863 and have been here since. So it's a lovely parallel, a lovely connection. We're very excited to have the Irish Doctors Choir come this year to celebrate our 275th anniversary. We're going to do a number of pieces of Handel's music, but sadly with the pandemic that has to be put on hold. We're really happy to have such talented medical and musical people. We hope that you'll enjoy what you see and hear. We'd be very grateful if you could support our cause, and there'll be a link at the end of the video. If you could donate, that would be fantastic. So hope you enjoy, and thank you for your support.
Welcome to our performance of excerpts from Handel's Foundling Hospital anthem, joining in the 275th anniversary celebrations of the Rotunda. The Irish Doctors Orchestra and the Irish Doctors Choir were due to perform live in the Pillar Room in the spring under the direction of Prentice O'Dinn, and we look forward to the return of that live performance as soon as circumstances allow. Meanwhile, the musicians of the Irish Doctors Choir and Orchestra were not to be kept from the joy that they find in making music. And you join me here in my home studio from where our performance was prepared and produced. Following on from our weekly online rehearsals, you can imagine recordings winging their way from the homes of doctors around the country and further afield. France, Germany, England, Scotland, Wales, Finland, all landing on my mixing desk and being coaxed into what you're about to listen to. The challenges are obvious, but we feel that in spite of, or perhaps even because of those challenges, there's a unity of purpose and a love of music that shines through. We hope you enjoy it.